Black Gemara. Today's daf is daf Nun Beis, and we just concluded the whole sugi over here. We finally Abaya, after all this time, got six. He's better than Shama. Shama got nothing except the Chazdav that he had to put a sword out there and threaten everybody. But so Tases actually brings a few more places like Abaya, and he wonders why they're not included, and then she give different explanations. So now we're continuing the Gemara on Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph. We are up to the two dots. So our Mishnah told us the following case. We discussed the first half of the case, but the case here was that a person went over and he basically stole the figs or the fruits of these women, but happened to be Shavias, which means that it's really hefker. The basket belonged to him, and he said to them, "You are mekudesh to me with this basket." And one woman took it on behalf of everybody. They're all mekudesh except those two sisters. So we want to know why we highlighted the fact that it's Shemitah. What's the relevance of that, and so on. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav, says Rav. Shema min maslis in Arba. Rav said, "I know that there are four things you learn this Mishnah, but I only remember three." We had this a couple of times, and I've said the same thing. The Nokid Rabbi Yodeh class, and he only relayed to us three of them that he was certain of. Shema min number one. Hamekadesh bepeides shvius mikudeshes. That if you use the peides of shmitim, you're mekudesh. And l'chayda, why l'chayda? You think it's hefker? The chiddush is that once you take the peides shvius and make it yours, it's yours, and therefore you can mekadesh. Other chiddush is because it says la'achla, that you can only use the peides shvius to eat, and here you're using it for a transaction. In fact, why taka? And you mekudesh. And Teja says, you cannot use Shemitah Paris, even though you're kind of it, you could only use it to eat. You cannot use it for any other thing. So therefore, what do you call it? And but the Evid, the Chiddush is that if you use the Paris Shvius, it is good enough.
I mean, in fact, it's a Shabbat Pruta.
No, but the point is that Teja says you can only use a La'achla. And as the Rabbanan say, you should not make schayda out of it. So we say, but the Evid, if you did, you're making a kinyan. She's good to you. Yeah, but hefker and it's limited use. It has limited use, only for eating and nothing else. That's one of the chilukim, by the way. You talk about the shmita, oitze bezin, or if you do het to mechira. Even though people, let's say, a lot of people more machbet dafki oitze bezin, but when it comes to actually using it, there's a big difference. You have to be very careful because something's oitze bezin has all the din of shmita on it. It's still kodesh, which means you cannot throw away one drop. You cannot sell it. You cannot use it for schayda. You can only, for example, wine, you have to make sure you drink every single drop of it. If it's het to mechira, has no longer the kedusha of shemitah. That's why they generally export het to mechira rather than oitze bezin, because there's big problems with oitze bezin. You can't just throw it out. You have to take care as if it's kedush shemitah. Anyway, let's continue. That's number one. Number two. If you use stolen goods to Mekadesh, it's the only reason why he stole from them. But you know why it's good? Because it's paid a Shemitah. Had it not been Shemitah, they would not have been Mekudesh. Why? Because it's stolen goods. It's not his. What's the chiddush for stolen goods? Of course, it cannot be. Even if it's stolen from her, it's not Mekudesh. Why not? She consents and she can be Meichel because maybe she just wants it back. In shakli, like we had before, with a D shakli. I want back my own stuff. How do you see all this from the Mishnah? It says Shalen Haise was their original date. So what's the gay all this? I mean, the point of the Mishnah there is that he was Mekadosh all these women with one person. What's the gay here? All these details about it was their dates and so on. Their figs and all that. What's the relevance of this? Their fruits and not their fruits? And that was Shemitah to tell you that even though it's theirs, because it's hefker, therefore you can use it. But if it wouldn't have been hefker, if you would have just stolen from them in a normal year, and he's mekadosh them with it, even though they have the right to be meichel, we don't say, oh, they were meichel. Hoitza time of the hefker. The only reason is because hefker. Or the shash neshul, any other time would not have been good. That's number two. Number three, that one woman can can accept the Kiddushin on behalf of everyone else, even though they're becoming rivals. What's the Kiddush? Because we learned before that they cannot say Eidos for each other because we don't trust them. But if they became a shliach, and as Rashi said, they did a ma'aser, the Kiddush is that you can trust them. That you can trust them. The Idach, what's the fourth one? Mahi. There's a fourth one. Kiddushin she'ein mesurim l'biyah. The discussion we had yesterday, the two sisters, and even if you only want to get engaged to one of them, since we don't know which one it is, so therefore you can never consummate this particular Kiddushin. Whether this Kiddushin still, Abai said there's still Kiddushin, and therefore he learns the Mishnah. That's why the Mishnah Isha Bitta means, according to Abai, Dafka, you got them both engaged at the same time. If you only gave it to one of them, it's all right. And Rava says even just to one of them, but halacha treats it as if they did it to both. So it depends how you learn Pshat the Mishnah. So why does the Rav include that Mishnah? The Masapkele Kabai Rava. He didn't want to get involved in the argument between Abai and Rava. He saw the Rav Zayda when Rav Zayda went to Yisrael. Omer lahoshmait. The Kamer Yechon repeated this the Rav's din before Rav Yechon. Omer Rav Yechon said, "Me Omer Rav Hachi." Does Rav really hold this that you cannot be mekadosh for stolen goods? So the Gemara, what's Rabbi Yechan's comment? Rabbi Yechan himself agrees to that. But Rabbi Yechan say that Gozal, if somebody stole something, let's say Reuben stole from Shimon, and Shimon did not abandon hope of recovering it, neither of them can make it hegdish. The Ganav can't because it's not his. And the Nignav can because it's not Rishus. Now, as all the Rishonim say, there's no Chiddush in telling me that the Ganav cannot be Makdish. Of course he can't. Before years, how can he? It's not his. Chiddush is that the Nignav, you would think it's his. Wherever it is, it's his. But because he has no control over it, it's not like I gave it a pekadon to somebody and some, he's watching it for me. Because the Ganav has kinyonim of Geneva, therefore, the Nignav can't make it. So L'chayda, he agrees that he can't give Kiddushin. L'chayda, everybody asks, I don't understand what's the Gemara saying here. Rabbi Yechon is talking about a case where you stole from somebody else, and therefore the Ganav can't use it for himself. Here, you're giving it back to the woman, and the woman accepts it. Maybe she's Meichel. So maybe Rabbi Yechon argues with that. Maybe Rabbi Yechon holds that if you take stolen goods from a woman, and you gave it back to her and you say, you're Mekudesh with this, and she consents, maybe Rabbi Yechon knows that she's Meichel and Savah Kedushin. What's the Raya from Gazal and Yisrael Shabbayim? The Raya is the Gemara will conclude in a minute that the Rav Zin is talking about Loi Shadich, that you didn't talk to her at all about Kedushin, you stole it and you gave it back to her. In that case, she is worse than anybody else. Because since you didn't talk to her about it at all, and she wants it back, and you're giving her an avenue, you're giving her an option of taking it away, of getting it back, she'll say, yes, I want it back. But in her mind, she just wants her goods back. She doesn't care. She's going to marry you, a Ganef. You even talked about, you didn't propose anything else. Anyway, so the Chayda Bechon agrees with Rav. Somebody says, you're right. Hachikam, this was said, me, Amar Rav Kavasi. Wow. Rav agrees with me. It's nice because many times Rav and Shmuel argue with Rabbi Yechon, and here they agree. Okay, so let's ask a question on this principle. It says, we had it before, Kitcha Bigazel. Let's say a man is Mekadosh, a woman with stolen goods, B'chamas. Chamas, you paid for it, but against their will, they don't want to resell it. Or you stole it discreetly. Gezel, you stole it openly, and Geneva, you stole it discreetly. Or you stole a coin from her hand. The kitcha. So in other words, it sounds like the first three cases I'm talking about you stole from somebody else and you gave her the stolen goods. And the last case is you actually stole it from her herself directly. And now you give it back to her. So the kitcha, Mikudesh is Mikudesh. So it's a kasha Rav. You, Rav, said, and Rabbi Yechon, that if you be Mekadosh with Gezel, ain't no Mekudeshes. Clearly here you have Mekudeshes. Says the Gemara, Hossam Begezel Diva. We're talking about it's her. It's talking about, you know why we're here Mekudeshes? Because you stole it from her. So what are you talking about? Because it says in the end, it's the last case number 4. You stole from her hand, which means the first 3 cases you stole from somebody else. And yet it says in Mekudeshes. The cloud did Eshu gets the Almaskin. So when it says Pirusha come Mefadish, she's explaining, no, if you use stolen goods from anybody else, definitely you're not Mekudesh. If you use her stolen goods, that's when the Bryce is saying that she's Mekudesh, because she's Meichel. Pirusha, or maybe there's all a ruse to get it to Pirusha come Mefadish. No, the Bryce is explaining itself. How? So it's another way. Just use stolen goods from somebody else, not Mekudesh. That's what Rav and Rabbi Yechon are saying. But here we're talking about if you stole it from her, she's Meichel. It's not so posh. But Mas listen, Rav's comment was an Al Mishnah. Our mission is talking about that you took pair of shvius from them, but because of Shemitah, it's not a problem. That means any other time you stole it from them, it would not be Mekudesh. What are you telling me that Rabbi Yochanan talking about a case we have stolen goods from somebody else, and that's why not Mekudesh? It's clearly Rav's comment is even if you stole it from her, she's not Mekudesh. How do you reconcile the Mishnah with the Brayse? The Mastisa the Gezet the Ukama Rav ain't Mekudesh. She's not Mekudesh. Like Kasha. It's very simple. If when Rav is talking about our Mishnah where you've not proposed to them at all before and then you stole it, even though it's from her, it's not Mekudesh. She's accepting it back because you want her goods back. But over here, this Mishnah, this Bryce talking about you proposed to her before, and then you're stealing it back to her, and she accepts it. That means she's Meichel and Mekudesh. So what do we see? If you take stolen goods from somebody else, and make the goods from Shadach Loy Shadach, and you give it to her, not Mekudesh. But when Rabbi Yochanan says Gazel V'loin is Yish, so what happened? It would be Yish. What happened? It would have been Yish. It's clearly for Rabbi Yochanan that it would be a valid Kedushin. That was Reuven stole money from who knows where, gave it to Leah, and the original owner was Meyayish first, while it was in Reuven's hand, and then Reuven gave it to Leah. It would be valid Kedushin. Now the question is why. Now here's a very big discussion to the Shainim Achreinim. Why would it be the whole word is Gazel V'loy Yish? As if to say a Gazel V'nis Yish would be valid. Why? He didn't give her anything. When are you kind of with Yush? You need Yush and Shinu Rishus, because in his hand we say we'll learn of Samach line there in Meruba, when he came into his hand, he already had a chiv of Hashavas B'Zevra. So the fact that the original owner Miyayish has no bearing on that. Navas, if there's a Shinu Rishus after the year, so when it came to this other person's hand, to the woman, it was Beheteda Asal Yada. But he didn't give her anything. So what happens in this case? So you have some Rishonim that use an expression, since it becomes hers, it automatically becomes his. Some say lemafrei from the beginning, some say then, and the logic you have to understand how, why. Others say, since she got it because of him, that's good enough. Even though he didn't own it at the time. And this goes to Mishal Mel's famous question, what's the main thing of Kedushin? That she receives a pruta or that he gave a pruta? For example, the case he talks about is she's sick, and she's very, very sick. She needs to eat treif, or something which is basa b'chalav, which has no value. So the person who's giving it, him has no value. But for her, it's going to save her life, has a lot of value. She's allowed to eat it, for her it has value. Is that a valid Kedushin or not? Do we focus on her or we focus on him? What's the main focus? And so they want to put that into this question as well. The stolen goods, even though it doesn't belong to the ganif, but it belongs to her, and because of him.
Just out of interest, the pruta that he uses for Kiddushin, is that Nixed Loig or Nixed in Basel? Because
that's hers. That's hers. As if he says it's yours, and I have no chelik in it.
She accepts it. It's back to him again.
Not what you give. Talking about further. He's the woman. There's a woman that was washing her feet, but mashkil the in his water base. We're just telling you a story because these details don't really matter. Also, came along a person, took stolen goods from somebody else, threw it at her, and Amalei said to her, "Mikadeshly, you're Kiddush to me." Right? And this is before years or anything else. What's the shaila? Asa who gave the kamed over. Then this guy, the ganef, went to us. Am I married to her or not? Or if you forget, Amal, he said, "Less the chosh lahad Rab Shimon." We're gonna have a bakamba, and another place we have a machlekes of Tanoim by Gzela. You know who the ganef is because Gzela means in the open, and yet he stole from you. That means he's brazen. He doesn't fear you at all. So Rab Shimon says, "Stam Gzela yish by them." As soon as it's stolen from you, you gave up hope of ever recovering. A ganef always hopes that maybe they can find it. A victim of a ganef always hopes they can find it back. But a victim of a gazan, they give up hope because you know who it is and the guy. So l'chayda. So in this case over here, Rav Shimon holds there's Yerushah. So l'chayda it should be good kedushin. We just said before that if you stole something and you gave it to her after Yerushah, it should be valid. So the paskin, we don't paskin like Rav Shimon. We don't say the fact is there was no Yerushah as far as we know, and therefore there's no kedushin. The Amas, we don't pass it. Already said there was a sharecropper. which means he has a share in the property. He works, he gets 25%, a third, 33%. A sharecropper that went, took a handful of onions and gave it to this woman. In other words, he took his share without asking, without working anything out, and he gave it to this woman. Also, the comment Rava, then went before Rava. It was the owner who owns the property itself. Was he moichel you? Did he say you can take the onions? Not at all. And he has a chelik in every single thing. So therefore, no good. This is only talking about muzah if it's, it took a whole bunch of onions. Avo kisha. If let's say they tied up vegetables that they sell, it's like asparagus. They sell asparagus, they bundles and bunches. So then, how are we going to split it? For every one bunch I take, the Balbos takes 3. So I can say, well, this is the one bunch I'm taking for myself. You take 3 in its place. It's not like the Balbos has a share inside this bunch as well. In that case, it would be a valid Kiddushin. Avo kisha. What's Amalek? You can say to the owner, Anoshak kisha, shkeilatul kisha, kisha. I take a bundle, you take a bundle, bundle for bundle. Oh, sorry. The onion we don't sell by the bundles. The bundles in onion till we divide it equally. Each onion itself at the moment till we divide it, the owner has a chelik in it. So I gave a woman something that part of it, that very thing belongs to somebody else. So I'm not in total control. But it doesn't work that way. They work and take it, I don't know, barrels, whatever it is. So Cole's mind, they didn't. You have to split it. Here, the bunches already split. The question is only who ends up with what. Says the Gemara, there was a person who makes beer, and they make out of dates. The Kaddish, the dates, they soak it in water, and whatever it ferments, it becomes beer, and then and they do it a few times, and eventually they only have the scraps of these dates left, and that's what he gave her. Still worth something, but that's what he gave her. Also, but he was not the owner; he was just a laborer there. Came the owner of the dates. He found him and he saw what he did. You should have given. Why did you give from these dates in a barrel that we 20, 30 times? You should have given that one. They only did it once or twice. There's still plenty of flesh left in there, so on. He did it without permission. But now that the owner seems to be happy with what I did, his only comment was, why don't you use a better one? What do I do? He went to Rava. He said, when do we buy truma? Can we learn about mitzvah? There's a din over there that by truma. The quote right here. If the guy goes in and gives truma, and the owner comes back and says, "Oh, you should have given from the better ones."
He's being sarcastic.
Yeah. Oh, it depends. Even if you found better ones, they were saying he means it. You didn't find better ones, it means sarcastic. So Rava says, "Look, you want to compare to that and say, well, he said should have used better dates." Only by truma. It's limited only in the case of truma that we say that it's retrospective. Why? The time we learned, Kate said, "Amru, truma. What do we say that if I gave truma without your knowledge? It's still valid truma. How did you? I went to your field. The leaked I collected without permission. If there's a suspicion here that maybe it's stolen, the owner is not happy, then ain't truma. So truma is not about truma. But if not, truma is about truma. How do we know? How do we know the owner's intentions or the owner's thoughts? Let's look at his reaction when he finds out. The balabais comes, found you, and his comment was, should have gone to the better ones. If you found better ones, a good truma. But if not, ain't truma. But if not, it's not a good truma. And therefore, so therefore what? Because it's a mitzvah over there, we can say that the owner taka means it. But if the owner himself joined in and he helped you make up the entire lot, then regardless, you found better enough. So what's the point? Over there's a mitzvah, we can say the Bible taka meant it. He's embarrassed to be so stingy to say, well, you can't use these remnants of these dates in this situation. So he doesn't really mean it. Now, this little piece of Gemara here, by the way, just tell you, is a big raid in Achreinim, not so much here, actually, more in Psachim and in Elam Etzis. And that is, Abaya Paskins Yish Lo Medas Lo Have Yish, which means a Gili Shaloi Medas Lo Have Gili. The Gemara asked Abaya from this question right here. What let's say Yitaka was happy, but Abaya, you Paskin, and that's halacha, that Yish Lo Medas Lo Have Yish. So who cares if Balbal says afterwards, says, I'm happy? It's nothing, there's no retrospectivity. Right. So what's Pshating Muddy here? So Pshating Muddy here, this is Rabba. Look who's this? Rabba is one who argues about it. Rabba holds that Yish Levidas Habi Yish, and Yish Levidas Habi Gilim. So why doesn't he want to bring that? So why doesn't he want to bring anybody who argues on this? This is not halacha. This is we just passed the Omid before Ya'al Kigam, and the Yud is Yish Levidas, which means Gilish Levidas. Comes on the Tzeiz Choshen and makes a big chiddush. So it makes a big chiddush. The chiddush is as follows: that there's a difference between Yish and Gilui. Yish Levidas we paskin Takahavi Yish. But when it comes to Gili Shalom Medas, we paskin Yish Levidas lo have Yish like Abaya. But when it comes to Gili from the Gemara right here, we see clearly Gili Shalom Medas have a Gili. It's a good Gili, and that's why the Gemara brings us tam. And we take the Gemara literally. And what's the big chiddush? And he writes there, and he doesn't write so often. In fact, he was never scared. He comes with an unbelievable chiddush. If you forgot to abandon your chametz, your chametz before Pesach, totally forgot, whatever. Chalamayit, suddenly you remembered that you have chametz, you have whiskey and all that, and you forgot to mevatlet. Says the Chos, you can still be mevatlet, because had you known before Pesach that you had it, you would have mevatlet. And since Gili Shalei Medas Havi Gili, it's retrospective, as if it happened before Pesach, which is an unbelievable chiddush. And or better, you go to a place the person doesn't know the dinner of Pesach, and you convince them on Pesach, I know you should have sold your chametz, and you too late sell your chametz. Be mevatlet your chametz. According to the Tais, it would be afraid would help based on this Gemara here. Tais, however, clearly that and some of the trying to Gemara literally. Tais, however, says if you look at the Gemara in El Metzias, the Gemara asks a question from here on Abaye, and Abaye says it's talking about that he appointed a shliach. So there's no retrospectivity here as far as the etzem truma. The only chilik is which quality, which level of truma should he give. So therefore, says Tais, that's what we want to talk about here as well. We're talking about here that he appointed a shliach. You have to appoint a shliach. Okay, let's continue. Says the Gemara further, Mishnah. Now we're continuing. A person is a kohen or a Levi, and he gave, let's say, he had a share. He had a share. A kohen distributed the kabbanis of the day, and each one gets a certain amount. And he gave it to a woman. He said, "Your mekudesh is my share." The question is, does he own that share? Or is it Hashem's share that Hashem said, you have the right to eat it? If it's Hashem's share, which the expression is Meshulchan Gavoya Kazach, all it is the Eibishter's, then you have no right to give it to her. You can give it to a woman, but it's not yours to give. It's just yours to eat. But if you learn that it's yours, then you could be Mekadosh woman. So the Mishnah clearly says, Mekadosh Bechelkai, Ben Kotche, Ben Kotche Kalam. I don't care whether it's Holy of Holies, which means it's limited to eat only based on English, or whether it's Kotche and Kalam, which means you can eat an entire Yerushalayim. Ain't a Mekadeshes. The Mishnah clearly says, why not? Because it's not yours. You can only eat it. It's Hashem's. You're eating on behalf of Hashem. The Meiser Sheni. What about when it comes to Meiser Sheni, which is at 10% you have to bring to the Yerushalayim with you, or you can redeem it? Bein Shegig, and we have a machlekes between Rameir and others where the Meiser Sheni is called Mammon Gavoya or Mammon Hedid. What's Meiser Sheni? Does Meiser Sheni belong to Hashem? Then you cannot be Mekadosh. If Meiser Sheni belongs to you, but you have to eat in Shlaim, then you could be Mekadosh. So says the Mishnah, the Meiser Sheni, when it comes to Meiser Sheni, Bein Shegig, Bein Mezid, whether it's Shegig or Mezid like Kiddush. Rameir holds Meiser Sheni is Mammon Gavoya, belongs to Hashem. However, Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda says, B'shaygeg like Kiddush. It depends. If you did it by mistake, then it didn't become yours. But b'mezid, if you knew that it was Meiser Sheni, and nevertheless you gave it to her, so you are kohen because it's mom and hedged. Kiddush or Kiddush. What about Hegdish? You gave her Hegdish. And here we're going to have a machlekes the other way around. We'll explain all this by Meiser Sheni and Hegdish later on. Well, Hegdish. Then Mezid, if you did it, then Mezid says Kiddush. So then it became yours. This Shegig is not yours, it belongs to Hashem like Kiddush. Give it a mer. Rabbi Yehuda says, the other way around. The Shegig, by Hegdish, the Shegig, it does become yours as Kiddushin, but the Mezid, you should not have done it like Kiddush. I think Gemara later on will explain the next few days what's going on here regarding Hegdish and Meiser Sheni. Says the Gemara, let's start out at the beginning of the thing about generally when a kohen gets his distribution of kabbanis, name let us say, Masnis into like Rabbi Yisrael Galili. Let us say that our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yisrael Galili. The Tanya we learned in the Braisa, it says the following: if you let's say somebody gave you something to mind for you, a pekadon, and then you took that pekudin and then you lied. You said, I never got a pekudin from you, and you swore false, and then later you were made. So you were moil b'Hashem, and therefore you have to pay it back, and you have to be carbon and so on and so forth. And the pasuk says that you were moil b'Hashem. Where does Hashem come in there? Two people are having a dispute. Yeah, so in Hashem. So he says the following time you learn to tell you that even though you were Hashem, something that originally belonged to Hashem, a carbon, nevertheless it's considered your money. These are the words of Rabbi Yisrael Glili. So we say basically holds that it's your money, but you could be Makadosh a woman with it. Not like our mission that says you can't. They don't know that. When does Rabbi Yisrael Glili say that it's yours? Only while the animal is still alive, it didn't shecht it yet, it's still yours. But here, once you shechted it, then it became the Eibishter's. And the Eibishter is allowing you to eat it. So Rabbi Yisrael Glili holds also that once it's a carbon, and now the kohen get the distribution, it's not his that he can be Makadosh a woman with, like the Mishnah says. He can be what the animal is alive. Once you shechted it, like my time of why? Because whatever the kohen is eating on behalf of Hashem. They can prove it to you. The Tanya, it says, I'm Mekadosh b'chelko. If somebody's Mekadosh is chelek, bein kochim kalim, loy kiddush. If you're Mekadosh, whether it's kochim, whether it's kochim kalim, loy kiddush. You are not Mekadosh. Why not? Because it's not yours, David. So Shema a good proof. Tell them what we learned. We had this as well. Similar, not exactly. Rameya was, if you remember, Rameya was so sharp that nobody could understand Rameya. So after Rameya passed away, Yehuda, who's Rameya's colleague, rival, said to his students, I don't want to see any Rameya's Talmid because they were just as sharp as Rameya, or they were sharp. And the two, exactly, they're all the way antagonizing. They're not coming to genuinely learn. They want to prove, catch me out. They want to catch me out. Like these students that continuously ask questions and answer. They just want to catch the teacher out. Hey boy, that's what they come for. Dochak Sumchis. Sumchis is one of the Talmidei Rameir and he pushed his way in. He wiggled. The Nichnas, he came in. The Amalem, and he got up to speak. Kach Shana Li Rameir. Rameir said, HaMekadosh B'Chelkoi. If somebody's Mekadosh with his chelik, Bein kochim, bein kalim, loy kiddush. If somebody's mekadosh with kochim, it's not a kiddushin because it's mama in gavoya. And we said Rabbi Yossi agreed to that as well. Once you shechted the animal, Kos Rabbi Yehuda alei. Rabbi Yehuda had a temper, and he got angry at his students. Not a student. Didn't I tell you? Al yikansud mitalmidei Rameir lekan. Don't allow Rameir students there. They're all sharp. And then they just want to find, they want to prove me wrong. They're antagonistic. Yeah. And I'll prove it to you. He said, kachim. Where can you eat kachim? Only inside the Beis HaMikdash. What are women doing inside the Beis HaMikdash? How can you be Mekadosh woman inside the Beis HaMikdash? How can you have a woman inside the Beis HaMikdash? So the question just shows you, the question doesn't make sense, part of it. He doesn't care. He just wants to catch me out. And I'll say, I'll make a blunder or something. Say, you see it, I may was smarter than you. That's what they want to do. Rashi says women were not allowed to go to the Azori. He brings over here a Mishnah and so on. Tosha says there's no such halacha that women cannot go into the Azori. And he proves some places. Of course they do. What about a Saita? What about a Nazir? Of course they went into the Azori. But it wasn't a common occurrence. And that's why he was asking. Rabbi Yehuda was saying, it's not a common thing. So what do you ask me, Shiloh, which hardly ever happens? Only there are Saita or Nazir. Generally, they didn't come in. Okay, so the Gemara says here, Rabbi Yossi now is a quantity. Rabbi Yossi said, no, but they have to stand in, they have to be do hanaf and all that. No, that's not the point. The point is, yeah.
They wouldn't be there anyway.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Uncommon occurrence.
Rabbi Yossi said, what do I do in the dilemma? People are going to say, Meir Shachav, Meir passed away, so nobody can stand and defend him. Yehuda has a temper, a tantrum. And Yossi Shasa, and Yossi's quiet. Is David Taylor Matelo? Is going to have a Taylor. Fascinating. We have the same Rabbi Yossi in the story of Shimon of Yehuda there in the Lafam Gimel and Shabbos when it came to the story of Baimer about Romans. Rabbi Yehuda had his opinion the Romans are great. Shimon said no, and Rabbi Yossi was quiet. So maybe, and then he got punished. He got punished over there by the Romans. So therefore, maybe he learned his lesson. You got to say something. We had the same another a different discussion there, but the same preamble. And he said, "Push it." That's nothing wrong with the question. You want to know how a woman could be Mekudesh Dashim? I'll give you a few possibilities. The father can be there. He can accept the Kedusha of his daughter. Or a woman doesn't ask a man, do me a favor, you're going, if you see a nice kohen there, you accept Kedushin. And what if you did the wrong thing? She went in. What are you supposed to do? The point of the question is the Kedusha or not? You give the whole pulpul, she shouldn't have done it. The Melabas. Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda says Mikudeshes. So here we see Rabbi Yehuda says Mikudeshes. Rabbi Yasi agrees with Rabbi Meir, ain't the Mikudeshes. They both dash with the same pasuk. It says in pasuk, this is what should be from you to the kohen. It says lecha to you. Sounds like completely yours. And then it says mina eish from the fire kokabanu, as if it's part of the mizbeach. So the question is the emphasis on which part of the pasuk. Is Rabbi Yehuda saw it's yours, it's the kohen. You can give it to her as kedushin. Rabbi Yossi saw like fire. Ma eish la'achila afu nami la'achila, just like fire belongs to mizbeach, and all you can do with it, the mizbeach eats it. So too, what can the kohen do with it? Only eating it. Rabbi Yehuda says what happened was nimnu megamru. So here was a discussion. Rabbi Yossi, Sumchus, Rabbi Yehuda, they decided, they counted in the room, and they decided hamekadid bechelka bein koche bein koche kalm loy kiddush. The Allah should be like a male. It belongs to it does not belong to the kohen. It's the Eibish's, and you cannot be mekadosh. And Rav says, nothing changed. This never happened. And neither of them were there. But this is what I made and a few generations earlier. But he said it never happened. It never happened. Look at Rashi. They never count anybody. They're arguing in the Metzias. What happened in that room at the time? Very interesting. Yeah, they're arguing what actually happened. Anyway, we'll stop at the 18 tomorrow, Mitzvah.